everyone. I'm Martha Jackson. Welcome to this special edition of the Bubble Lounge podcast. For those of you that might not know who we are, we've been around for 3 years, and we started as a way for neighbors to get to know each other and to support local businesses. And we're the only podcast for people in the Park Cities, and we would love for you to check us out at bubblelounge.net. I'm excited to welcome the candidates for Highland Park Independent School Board, place number 4, Jae Ellis and Tyler Beeson. We thought since the election is coming up on May 7th, it would be a great chance for voters to get to know the candidates in a more casual environment. I'm going to ask the candidates a series of questions, and we're going to alternate who goes first. And each candidate will get a time of 3 minutes to answer the question. Our producer will be monitoring the time, and we may have to interrupt from time to time if anyone's going over time because we have a lot of questions and we have 30 minutes to get through everything. So let's get to the candidates. Let's start with Jae Ellis. Jae, can you introduce yourself and tell us about your background as far as working in Highland Park and how many kids you have in the school system, as well as your work background?
Absolutely, and thanks for having us. I apologize. When you were speaking the first time, my volume cut out, so it sort of froze. So I may have some technical difficulties. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you perfectly.
Good, well, thank you. So I'm Jae Ellis. I am currently on the school board, and I was elected in 2019. My profession is, I work for a company called Disco. We're a legal consulting company that went public this summer, and we're based in Austin. So I spend all day, every day, talking with attorneys, and I enjoy it. Some people always say that may be an interesting way to spend your day, but as an attorney, I enjoy visiting with them. I have 2 children. My daughter Caroline is a junior at the University of Texas. She graduated from Highland Park in 2019, and my son Judge is a junior at Highland Park High School. And fortunately, he hasn't walked in the door yet, but you may hear him in a moment.
Tyler, what about you?
Great. Hi. Yeah, thank you for having me as well. Again, my name is Tyler Beeson. I have lived here for 19 years, almost 20 years. I am in the finance industry, wealth management. I have my own RIA investment firm called WPA Family Office. I have been in this business for 23 years now. At home, I have my wife, Whitney, and then we have 5 kids. So we have a bit of a Brady bunch, but we have a big vested interest in Highland Park School District. In fact, we met at Highland Park at one of the school events, but we have 3 high schoolers right now. We have Scout, who is a senior. She's going to be graduating soon. And then we have Chase, who's a junior, my oldest son, as well as Blake, who's a freshman. He's probably coming off the baseball field, I'm guessing, here pretty soon. And then I have my stepdaughter, Truly, who's in 3rd grade at Lamplighter. And then last but not least, and one of the main reasons why I'm here today, is I have a pre-K son, Towns, who's 5, who will be off to kindergarten in the fall. Yeah, so that's me. That's my family and what I'm doing. Thank you.
Tyler, in your opinion, what are the best things about HPISD?
Oh, wow. So HPISD is just probably the most key component of Highland Park and University Park Cities combined, which is just a wonderful community. And it's a community that I chose to raise my children in. And I talk about it very fondly, and I think of it as a, just a good old fashioned neighborhood that reminds me of something of from better years of like Leave It to Beaver and those types of just great close-knit communities. And Highland Park School District is the crown jewel. It has a phenomenal reputation. It has for a long, long time. We have some challenges facing us now, and I know we'll get to some of those, but yeah, Highland Park School District absolutely has, for over 100 years been one of the best in the state and one of the best in the country. And it is something that our community rallies around. I mean, I don't know who on Friday nights in the fall doesn't enjoy Scott's football games and of course, all the other sports and academics that we bring to.
Jae, same question.
Yeah, there are many reasons why Highland Park is the best public school system in Texas. Has been for more than 40 years when I got here, and still is. Number one, I think something unique about Highland Park is the pride that the children and the families develop early on at their elementary schools. We now have 5 elementary schools, and everybody has an identity at that school, and it's both competitive and inspiring, both on the athletic field and in the classroom and in the neighborhoods. But what's so amazing is the kids in our community then come together at the middle school, and they all start working toward their experience at the high school, where we're all Scots. And Tyler mentioned the football games, of course, that's critical. But there are so many other amazing things that we do at Highland Park, and the community is always behind it. It's fine arts, it's academics, it's athletics, and it's certainly social as well, as your Bubble Life crowd knows. The second piece, and I think this is really it, Martha, is parental involvement. There's no place in Texas and probably in the country that has parents who care more and invest their time more in the cafeteria and on the PTA and in the dads clubs. The parents here really want their kids to succeed. And the way they make sure they do in the schools is they're involved, and not only by volunteering their time, but also by following along with what they're learning, by developing relationships with the teachers and the other parents. There's just no other place like it where parents are this involved and where the spirit is as strong as it is in Highland Park ISD.
Well, Jay, just to expand on that a little bit more, with your experience in volunteering at the schools, how do you feel that experience has prepared you to participate in the school board?
Well, good question. So Martha, way before I was ever elected to the school board, I was the dad that the principal at the high school would call when he has new teachers who need to learn about how to deal with parents and need to understand about the community. I remember many, many years ago going up and talking to the new teachers in the summer before classes started. I'm the kind of person that's always involved in the other things going on in the district as well. You know, a few years back and before I was on the board, I presented the teacher who won the Distinguished Service Award, Don Richardson, for the Highland Park Alumni Association. I'm just someone who's always been involved and really have passion and enthusiasm for being involved in these things. I also presented at the New Teacher Convocation back in 2013. So here it is, Martha. Not only did I graduate from Highland Park, but I came back and I was a classroom teacher at Highland Park and a coach as well. Of course, I went to law school and practiced law. I even was a municipal bond investment banker for school districts and other municipalities. But at the end of the day, my service to this community and to the schools is because I love Highland Park. It's because I've learned as a student at Highland Park that we enter that building to learn, and we as Scots go out to serve. And it's what I love. It's where I get my energy. And frankly, it's what's most rewarding for me.
Tyler, same question.
So I'm in this for the kids, purely for the kids. Again, I mentioned my 5-year-old Towns, and that's where I've spent most of my time in this community in terms of volunteer work, has been things that I've been most passionate about. It's been started with the kids. A lot of the people around town will know me as Coach Tyler. I've been coaching local Y teams for years for all of my sons and daughter, baseball, soccer, so forth. So a lot of stuff there. And then also just volunteering at the school. In fact, from up all night to bike rodeos to different dads club events. And in fact, one of my best stories, my proudest moments in terms of my volunteer work was actually when I met my wife. I met her at the UP Elementary School Carnival on a Saturday while I was volunteering, taking tickets for the inflatable slide. So my volunteer work goes there, and I'd say that kind of lightheartedly, of course, but on the more serious side too, in this community, I have been a part of, was on the board of directors for almost 10 years for Interfaith Family Services. That was an incredibly rewarding experience. I chaired up the golf tournament, but I first started as a budget co-partner. And for those that aren't familiar, there's Interfaith Family Services deals with situational homelessness. So your typical, family is a mom and a couple of kids who unfortunately may be sleeping under an overpass or in a car. And that just tugged at my heart. And so that was an area where I was very passionate about and wanted to help. My time on the board expired this last year, which has opened up a time slot here for me to try and join the board at Highland Park. But it always is about the kids for me and what I can do. And I look at this not as a stepping stone or a resume builder or a networking opportunity, but instead for what it really is. It's a passion for me. And I'm not doing it for I'm doing it for everybody in the community, but more than the parents and in that aspect of it, it's absolutely for the kids. And that's why I decided to run.
Tyler, what do you believe are the most immediate challenges for HPISD, and what solutions do you propose to help make them better?
Oh, wow. Well, that's a great question, and spot on again, just kind of going off of my last comments. Those issues that we're facing are real, and those issues are why I'm running. And I'm trying to stick to very positive messaging, but the Highland Park today is not the same Highland Park that it was 5 years, 10 years, 20 years ago. Highland Park has a very, very proud 108-year tradition. 108 years of that was great, but I'm often saying that we're running on our past success. There's a level of complacency. That complacency has me frustrated. And that's the reason I decided to throw my name in the hat, and not because anybody suggested that I run, but because I wanted to do so as a passionate dad, a father of 5. And I didn't want to have to not send my pre-K son here. We honestly talked about it for a couple of years behind closed doors about sending him elsewhere because we had lost some of our faith in this district. I want to help regain that faith in this district. I chose to stay and fight instead of to flee. But there are some absolute issues. We have huge issues in curriculum. Those are very well known. They go a lot broader and deeper than just Lucy Calkins and balanced curriculum. They go into workshop method. They go into math. The curriculum is absolutely what I'm most passionate about. I can't stand seeing our test scores falling, our rankings falling. And I'm tired of this status quo that a number of the current board members and administration stand for. So that's why I'm running. Beyond the curriculum, it's teachers. I'm sick and tired of seeing teacher turnover. We've had it for a long time. That's one thing that, Jay, you ran on 3 years ago, was that you were going to improve teacher turnover. That hasn't happened. In fact, the numbers have gotten worse. And so I'm really passionate about supporting our teachers, creating a better environment for our teachers. And that student-teacher relationship is paramount. That's what drives the educational outcomes. And we have to get back to that. Last but not least, in my platform, I'm all about finances. I'm a finance guy. I have a bachelor's and an MBA in finance. I'm very comfortable with numbers, and we have people talk about what we don't have with Robinhood and recapture. They fail to realize we do still have a $75 million budget, and we do have a lot of things that we can do better if we reallocate funds more appropriately towards our teachers and away from some of our administration and some of the other expenses that I don't think are being handled wisely. So there's a lot of room for work, and that's why I'm really excited for this job.
Jay, what do you feel are the most immediately challenges for HPISD, and what solutions do you have?
Great question. Let me start by addressing something Tyler said. I think that Highland Park is the best school district in the state. It still is. And here's why. It's a comprehensive experience that our kids go through in the schools. Many of them go from pre-K or kindergarten all the way through 12th grade. Some of them come in the middle. But we've all had these experiences where there are years where a teacher maybe is assigning too much work or not enough work, or your child isn't scoring as well on tests. But at the end of the day, the metric that best characterizes Highland Park's achievement and success is what happens at the end of that comprehensive experience. And Highland Park still ranks #1 of all open enrollment public schools in virtually every category, from graduation, ACT and SAT scores, AP number of tests, AP scores, the schools that students are going to. And so I don't buy the narrative that Highland Park is failing. If a magazine wants to rank Highland Park along with charter schools and magnet schools, that's okay. At the end of the day, we're going to address each of the challenges that we have at all grade levels to help those kids to accomplish and receive excellent education. But we're also not going to say the sky is falling when ultimately ours is the best school and it will continue to be. So the questions are, or the question was, what are the biggest challenges? The first, of course, is how are we going to implement the new literacy instruction methods and materials? And I'll tell you the answer is our teachers and our staff are going to be working around the clock these next few months and over the summer so that come fall, we will have a great program with a much better focus on phonics for the kids and a shift away from Lucy Calkins, of course, and workshop method. But that implementation is going to be a challenge. The second is teacher retention. And Tyler brings up a good point. Something we've been working on for the last 2.5 years is trying to compensate our teachers better. And one thing that I and my fellow school board members accomplished is we were able to bring to a vote of the community the VATRE, or the golden penny vote. And the beauty of that accomplishment from November is, number one, across the board, our teaching staff is going to make 7% greater compensation than they made before. And second, the community is all taxpayers are paying 2 pennies less on their value of their property than they were before. So we got a tax cut and we increased compensation by 7%. And so I'm very optimistic that those teachers will be sticking around because we've made some substantial change. And then finally, Robin Hood is just a huge challenge. It has been. We continue to do a great job of working with community leaders and volunteers who raise private funds through the Education Foundation and its annual campaign, Mad for Plaid. And it is critical that we have people in leadership that understand how that functions and they know how to work with those organizations to optimize the money that we have for the operating budget for Highland Park ISD.
Jae, what makes you uniquely qualified to address the issues that we just talked about?
Good question, Martha. What makes me uniquely qualified is my experience. If Highland Park wants someone to come in and join the board of directors who is just learning how it works and who has an answer for every question before the question is asked, they're applying for the wrong role. Our board is a board of 7 community members, unpaid community members, who come together to set policy, to monitor the administration by the superintendent, and to approve the annual budget. And so what qualifies me, Martha, is I don't jump to conclusions. I don't make decisions quickly. I listen to all sides and I understand things from the perspective of all interested stakeholders. As an example, we had the committee that just recently recommended that we change the literacy instruction methods and materials. I had a lot of community members that provided really amazing research to me, indicating that what we were employing was not most effective. And as much as it would have been easy for me and to do the popular thing and just tell them I'm going to get rid of it, the truth is I had to remain objective until the process finished out, including being open to the possibility that I might learn other information that would lead us to a different conclusion. Along the way, I continue to assure the parents, especially those in the Literacy Coalition, that everything they presented was extremely compelling, and even that I didn't foresee that there could be a rebuttal that would justify sticking with what we were doing. But ultimately, to succeed in this role, you have to be able to work with the other 6 trustees. You have to be able to work with the administration, and you have to reserve judgment until the process plays out, because this is a big ship and you can't just U-turn every time there's a popular trend. But the good news is we made a great change and we did it by following a process that works.
Tyler, what makes you uniquely qualified to deal with the issues that we just talked about?
Yeah, again, my pleasure to answer that. So first and foremost, business experience. My clients trust me to be analytical, to be thorough, to be detailed, and to problem solve. but more than business experience and real life community experience in solving problems, I should take a step back. What makes me most uniquely qualified is I'm a dad. I'm a father of 5 who cares deeply about these kids and about their educations. In doing so, I've already had 12 years of being a parent in this district, but the good news is I have 13 more years. So I have a vested interest, 25 years combined, that I don't think is, that's probably tough to match. But I look at things very differently than Jay. And as a parent, again, I've been very frustrated by the districts. He described it as turning a ship this large. That's part of the problem here. This is a very large bureaucracy. These answers were brought up and brought from the community for years. These frustrations have been there for years. Falling test scores have been there for years. Those are things that I would take and I would try and act on, because if I ran my business, or any business owner ran their business the way this administration is running Highland Park School District, we wouldn't be in business very long. We have to be more responsive. We have to listen to our parents. We have to listen to our community. And I go back to what made us great, the 10 years ago, 20 years ago, and for the many decades past. And there were so many key lessons that we've gotten away from. So I want to hold people accountable to ask, when did things change? Why did they change? Who changed them? And for what reason? Education is not something that needs to be changing on a dime. That I agree with Jay. But this is something that should have a steady hand. But traditional education, the foundation that our kids need to learn reading, writing, math, spelling, and so forth, history, those are things that are not changing rapidly day to day. But the way that we've been delivering them, our kids have very much been experimented on, and I'm not okay with that. And so I guess what I'm getting at there is being much more keen to make changes and make corrections instead of just rubber stamping a lot of things, as I see a number of board members doing and this administration requiring. I think that we have the functionality is inversed, and we need to correct this from the way that it is. And then last but not least, my financial background. One of my favorite board meeting coffees that I had was with Edward Herring, who said, "Hey, this is great. We speak the same language. Your skill set is needed on this board." Those are things that I'm going to bring to the table if and when the Park Cities voters will elect me.
Tyler, what do you think that others that have worked with you at the schools would say about your work ethic and involvement in the schools?
Yeah, again, I think everybody knows that I'm a caring dad. I'm a great coach, a wonderful volunteer, a good friend to the other dads. There's nothing I wouldn't do for others in this community. That's why I throw my name into the hat here. I think that that's what they would say, is that this is a huge time commitment. It's something I don't take lightly, but something I'm really excited about. And when I go in for something, I go all in. And that's no different if I'm on the baseball field, the soccer field, whether I'm, donuts for dad or the bike rodeo or, cafeteria line, whatever it is that I'm doing, I'm very competitive at it. I want to be the best at it. And more than anything, I want to set a great example for these kids. And any dad and mom that I know well, or that knows me in this community, will echo that. I have a servant's heart, and I care deeply. If I haven't said it enough tonight, I care deeply about these kids. And that's why I'm so passionate about us getting this all right.
Jay, what would people that have worked with you at the school say about your work ethic and the involvement in the schools?
Absolutely. And let's start with Edward Herring, because I think Tyler's sort of misrepresenting the implication of what Edward said. Edward Herring supports me for this role, and here's why. He knows that I have a varied background with expertise in a lot of areas, including finance. What many members of the community don't know is that I was a public finance investment banker even before I was a school teacher at Highland Park. I'm a general registered or at least I was a general registered securities representative in those days. Finance is a strength of mine, and Edward Herring certainly knows that I've done a great job of working in that capacity. The question is, what would people who know me say? They would say that Jay recognizes that we have to constantly evaluate new information. and we have to be willing to change our perspective based on the perspectives of others. And the way you do that is you put yourself in the position of other people. You listen to their concerns, you compare and contrast, recognizing that there are almost always multiple sides and perspectives, often in contrast. And so the people I've worked with on the school board, including all 25 school board members who are supporting one candidate in this race, they all support me. And the reason is they know that I love this community. They know that I am open-minded. They know that I am willing to make changes, both in my, in the direction of the district and to learn from others. And frankly, Tom Sharp is a fantastic example. Tom and I talk all the time, and frequently we come in with different perspectives on an issue. And many times at the end of those discussions, I say, hey, Tom, you're so darn reasonable and thoughtful. I think you're right. And my perspective changes. Sometimes his changes, but the end result is 7 of us can collaborate and come to agreement. And it's because I don't take pride of authorship or ownership. And ultimately, I'm going to do what's best for the kids, including evolving and those thoughts around what's best for the kids to ultimately come to the right decision with my co-trustees.
Tyler, what would your supporters say is the biggest strength and would make you the best qualified for the job?
My biggest strength, again, is I would say being a fiduciary. Being a fiduciary and being invested. Those are 2 of the keys. Being a fiduciary, again, is something that I do for my clients. Been put in a position of trust in my business with their financial affairs for 23 years. That's not something I take lightly. I know that the school board trustee position is every bit as serious, and I take it as such. But I know, like nobody, like very few others know what it is to be a fiduciary, but invested. Again, I've been here for a long time. I understand the excellence of Highland Park, and that's why I'm running. I want to make sure that we maintain that excellence. We deserve to be the #1 most admired school, the #1, the most excellent school in the state of Texas, and frankly, in the country, because this community deserves it. They request it. We've been there before, and we can keep doing this if we're willing to be reflective inward and realize where we need to make some changes. And being invested. Again, I don't just have older children like Jay does. I believe his youngest is a junior. I have 5, and my youngest is 5. I mean, I don't know who could be any more invested than me. I've been here as a parent for 12 years, and I have 13 more years. 25-year window is pretty tough to beat when you want to talk about having skin in the game and ownership of wanting to make sure that Highland Park School District is just as excellent as it's always been and as excellent as it can be. And that passion, if it's not coming through this Zoom screen, it absolutely comes through when I'm talking to people in the community. And I believe that that's why I have such broad community support. And frankly, people are tired of the status quo. They're tired of the machine. They're tired of this institution. And I think that Jay's quilt, as I call it, the quilt is hilarious. I mean, it basically says anybody that's ever lived who was part of Highland Park School District backs him. Well, that's because they're taught to do that. TASB teaches you to have each other's back. As an outsider, I look forward to that challenge because the community knows that we need change, and I represent change.
Jay, can you tell us in your own words why we should vote for you?
Absolutely. You should vote for me because, again, and it probably feels like I'm beating a dead horse, but we don't have a school board that is tasked with running the day-to-day operations of the school. We have a school board that is tasked with oversight and direction and goals for the district and ultimately policy. And the way we're able to successfully navigate that is by collaboration and open-mindedness. And so if you throw in, we can't know what the next challenge is going to be. Of course, nobody anticipated a global pandemic, but just as an example of the things that we've accomplished in the almost 3 years I've been on the board, and my role is, number 1, We opened a brand new school and redrew attendance zones, and that's not easy, and it's certainly not popular. But we did what was right for the community and for every student. And along the way, we had to deal with a lot of passionate families. I think that looking back, they would say, even though the district took its time, and even though we didn't necessarily agree with every detail, we are happy with the result. As you know, we had to deal with multiple issues related to the pandemic. And thankfully, we were able to keep the kids in schools. Thankfully, this school year, we were one of the only school districts in Dallas County that was able to do so without requiring any masks. I mentioned the proposal for the VA TRE, and also we were able to raise teacher pay and cut taxes. And then finally, again, it's not a fast process, but we were able to ultimately run a process where an assessment was made, an evaluation was made, and now a proposal will be before the board later this month. And I plan to vote to remove Lucy Calkins and workshop method and work toward fast and effective implementation of new methods and materials. And so ultimately, I get things done. It's not always fast, it's not always popular, but it's always what's in the best interest of the students. And it's always what leads to the most excellent education for Highland Park ISD students.
Tyler, can you tell us in your own words why we should vote for you?
Again, I think you should vote for me for change. Highland Park deserves to be the best, to be what we can be. We need a fresh perspective. That's what I bring. I bring a sharp mind and a fresh perspective. Again, I'm approaching this I'm not doing this for the right. I'm not doing this for the left. I'm not doing this for the middle. I'm doing this for the kids. They are my passion. I understand it's a little bit cliche, but it's the God's honest truth. And so you should vote for me because of not only my experience, my business experience, my financial experience, my trustworthiness, my honesty. When I say something, that's not something that I manipulate those words later or post something out different. When I tell the community something and I'm passionate about something, that's what I stick to. And frankly, I would be an ideal school board trustee for Highland Park School District because I care about this district like just about no one else. And again, with a 25-year vested interest as a parent, I want nothing but the best for these kids. And I also understand as a parent, for other parents with special needs children's and all 5 of mine have specials. Those are things that are important to me. They're under things that I understand. I lived through 504s and ARDs, and there's a lot of real life experience that I can bring to this. But Highland Park voters should vote for me because I'm going to bring common sense. I'm going to look at some of these things and with my fellow board members, get to the right answers and not something where I take years to act on it. Something where, yes, it needs to be researched. Absolutely. Our analysis needs to be thorough, but vote for me because I want to correct the ship and bring the best version of Highland Park that we've ever seen to this community because that's what we deserve and we can do better.
Well, gentlemen, thank you both for joining us tonight and sharing your qualifications as well as your passion for becoming a part of the school board. We really appreciate that. And just a reminder, early voting starts April 25th and will end on May 3rd, and Election Day is May 7th. And join us next Thursday on April 14th when we talk to the candidates for Place 5, Ellen Lee and Spencer Sino.
Great.
Thank you all for joining us tonight for the special edition of the Bubble Lounge. And we will post this on our Instagram, Facebook, on our website. There'll be no shortage of ways for you guys to be able to watch or listen afterwards. Thank you all for joining us tonight.